Welcome, Autobots and Decepticons. My name is Matthew Flynn, the Gladiator of Kaon, and I am joined by Troy Pacelli, also known as Carton, the Klingon Cleric, and Netta from Netta's Network. Welcome.
Good
morning.
I think that's the first time you've spoken Klingon here.
Well, and it won't be the last time this episode, as we get into our first episode.
Yeah.
I just a little bit of trivia to point out that they were clever enough to actually use Klingon in that episode.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. I'll give you. I won't get into it until we're ready to start covering the episode. But I'll explain that. So how you doing today?
Yeah, I'm alright.
Good. And depending on how you look at it, we're still on the second season, or maybe we're on the third season, or whatever.
Yeah, that depends whether you look into the production order or the US airing order.
Yeah.
Since we've been going by the US airing order, this will be season 3.
Yep.
Yeah, and don't worry, this confusion over how much of the show is one particular season isn't going to be a problem with Omniverse.
Yeah,
we'll have to be dealing with a different problem, but we don't have to worry about that right now.
Okay.
Because we're multiple weeks away from Omniverse.
I know, because what the U.S. airing order considers to be season 3 just goes on and on and on and on. It could have been like 3 seasons in and of itself.
Yeah. So the first episode we'll be talking about is The Purge.
It is The Purge, and as I had alluded before, the episode starts out with Arjit showing up and saying, "Hello, friends," and he says it in multiple languages, including in Klingon. When he pops his head out, he says, "Makak." It's like, oh my gosh, I know what he said. He said Klingon. Which, of course, it's an alien language. He's speaking in different languages. And, of course, as an alien, he's speaking an alien language.
Yep. And I believe before Arjit showed up, Ben, Gwen, and Kevin were fighting elephant alien thing. I think his name was Trombipula.
Yeah, now, had we seen him before?
No, I think this might have been the first time we see him.
Okay.
Yeah. It was right as he was getting away that Arjit then teleported his ship right in the way.
Yeah, no, I just got such a charge out of that. I'm like, and that's the kind of thing that it's like, wow, that's a deep dive. Unless you're really a Star Trek fan, really know your Klingon, you're not even going to catch that. And his pronunciation was just fine,
I wonder if the actor, voicing Arjit, actually, if he actually, studied Klingon, or if he just, studied pronouncing the specific line.
Well, if he... I don't know if these production companies are aware of this. I mean, you can easily go out to the internet and look up a word. But here's what they had to do. It's not enough to just look up the word friend, right? Friend, makach, right? But you have to know how to pluralize it. So you got to add the poop to the end. And so somebody actually got that part correct, which means if they made it to the CAG web page and typed in friends and came up with makach poop, there is actually a pop-up that allows you to hit play and you can hear it pronounced by somebody who's fluent in the language. So that is a possibility, and if they got that far, I give them mad props.
Yeah.
Can you tell we're geeks?
Yeah. I was pretty fired up about that. I was like, nice.
Well, after I don't think actually RJN showing it was actually I think that was after the very beginning of the episode, because we had the this scene of the different factions of the Forever Knights and their leaders.
Yeah, the round table, I caught that.
Yeah. We even had Enoch make a reappearance.
Yeah.
He only looked kind of like he did in the original series, though. In this one, his face was actually moving. It looked more like his face was painted gold rather than him wearing a mask.
Yeah.
That was a little weird. I don't know why they made that decision. Honestly, I would have preferred it if they just left him with just a mask.
Yeah.
Or a mask with a static expression. Actually, that's the way Enoch appears in the Ben 10 video game at the time. I don't know if that game came out shortly after this episode or before, but it is definitely coincidental that both this episode and that game both feature Enoch. Although the game has Enoch as a boss battle, while this just has him as like a background cameo. And of course we get the other Forever Knight leaders that we've seen through the show, like Driscoll right here. There's what is it, Sir Connor, I think was his name, because he was the guy who was hunting that alien dragon. And then we have also one of the king. I think he is the king from either season 1 or 2 of Alien Force. I think this is the guy from earlier in this show. And of course, old George as well has come in.
Right.
Because we get more information about him in a couple of episodes that we'll be talking about.
Right, but what we basically are getting here, and I think it's clever, they realize they have all these threads of different attempts at doing stuff with the Forever Knights, and it's created a kind of weird continuity of them. And they're taking all those threads and they're just kind of joining them together. And they're, saying, okay, the reason that they're like this, in reality, we're probably assuming, well, it's different writers, different ideas about what to do with the Forever Knights. Now they're going, okay, we're deciding, we're retroactively going back, deciding on a continuity for them, and all of these different, leaders that we've had, different looks, different everything, they're all just different factions that have factioned off for, over the years because they haven't had a unifying leader. We're bringing it all back together again.
Yeah. Like with the original show with Enoch and then later Driscoll at the end as the Forever King.
Right.
Which I suppose, given this, we can assume he probably wasn't the king of the whole Forever Knights, maybe just that particular faction.
Exactly.
Well, obviously, we wouldn't have known that at the time.
It works, though. It makes perfect sense. It does a great job of cleaning up some things. See, I wish that all writers in all franchises were thinking this way about things, and looking at going, okay, we've got a continuity situation here. How can we explain it? How does it make sense? Instead of, let's do time travel and undo it,
Yeah. And we also have when old George enters this place, because he summoned all these leaders here to this place, which I'm pretty sure is Area 51, because because it wasn't blown up. He teleported it to the side of a mountain. So I think that's where this is. I don't think they ever clarify. Because when they're talking about it, they don't really say Area 51 or make any reference to if it is. They just say this place or here or something like that. Yeah. When old George walks in after he's the one who summoned them all here, and basically pointed out to them that they've all like splintered off from the original purpose of the Forever Knights, and like obviously he like reunifies them, and also he brings more advanced technology than what they're currently using, because I've got these. Because obviously we have the standard Forever Knight look for the show here. Where are we? Oh, wait, there. And then old George comes in with these knights who can like pull weapons out of their armor. They're definitely more advanced tech than what the Forever Knights have had so far. I suspect there might be some alien tech in this armor.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so George basically sets the Forever Knights to go out and start getting rid of alien life on Earth, or any alien and half alien and like anything like that. And it kind of resembles the Nazis hunting for Jews. Yeah. I suppose is a comparison you could make with this.
Yep.
I don't know if that's what the writers were intending with this, but you could definitely see that.
I think we tend to get too focused on that and always use that as a go-to. I think we need to recognize it as, I don't want to call it a trope and trivialize it, but it is an archetypical concept of, a dictatorial group, a controlling group using a scapegoat group as a means of propagating themselves.
Yeah.
It's almost a natural thing that happens. It didn't happen the first time during World War II or leading into World War II.
Yeah.
We've been doing it throughout history, and I think it's something we haven't learned from, because it looks like we're doing it all over again.
Yeah. Although in this case, I'm pretty sure the Forever Knights aren't just simply using the like eradicating aliens or removing them from Earth. I don't think they're necessarily using that as like a cover or anything like that. I think they do genuinely want to get rid of aliens, or from Earth specifically.
Yeah. Oh, and these groups always find a way to justify it, right? They always,
yeah.
Oh yeah, they're the evil. They're what's, if we could just get rid of them, everything would be perfect.
Yep. And also, the purge starts with Pierce being killed, or they I don't think they specifically point out that he's been killed, but that's pretty clear what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And he was using an ID mask while on a date. I'm not 100% sure why. I know he has the spikes on his face and everything, but he doesn't look that unappealing.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not to you.
The whole idea, yeah.
That is not what I meant.
Yeah. The whole idea, though, was that because he was an alien and his date didn't even know of the existence of aliens, his different appearance freaked her out,
Yeah.
So, I mean, if nothing else, that alone, was, I mean, somebody pulls off a mask to reveal that, they look alien. That's going to freak you out when you thought, I thought I knew what you looked like.
Yeah. Maybe it's because we've been watching this show and they've like been featuring aliens like
exactly.
with no big deal.
Exactly.
Not making a big fuss about it and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think if I saw an alien, I wouldn't freak out. I would be sitting there going, "Hey, that's kind of cool."
No, I think you do that because you tend to be rationalizing it. In reality, you would have a major cognitive dissonance and go, wait a minute, you know?
Actually, I'd be like, okay, so how'd you do those appliances? Where'd you get the
Yeah,
clothes,
that would
the
be your
costumes?
first reaction.
Yeah.
You would assume it was some sort of special effect or something.
Yeah, and we also then we have obviously Arjit running in or getting right in the middle of Ben, Gwen, and Kevin's battle with a different alien criminal.
Yeah.
And when they start searching for the Forever Knights, they go into like one of the castles, and they come across another robot dragon. I wonder if every Forever Knight castle has a robot dragon in it. Because this is at least the second one we've come across now.
I feel like it kind of makes sense. It's kind of like their symbolic, focus. So,
Yeah. I mean, it'll make more sense when we get to Old George and when we learn a bit more about him. And of course, I do like the way Ben and Kevin take out the dragon, as they by Kevin turning himself into a human bullet, kind of, and Ben using Lodestar's magnet powers to push him through.
Mm-hmm.
It does kind of resemble Wolverine and Colossus Fastball Special. Oh, it's not exactly the same, but it's definitely got some similarities. And I suppose you could call it a similar move to what Goku does a few times in Dragon Ball, because Kevin went through the dragon's chest, which now I think about it, it's like kind of an iconic image for Dragon Ball, because that image repeats multiple times through that series. We also get the introduction of Mr. Bowman. Bowman. I have no idea how to pronounce his name, but he's the shopkeeper that Ben, Gwen, and Kevin and Arjit go to, and obviously he's this is I think the reason that made me think the whole Nazis and Jew kind of parallel is because Mr. Bowman is sheltering aliens in his shop whenever Forever Knights come by.
Okay, you're right. That's definitely a cultural touchstone.
Yeah, and the aliens that he's sheltering are the same species as Tak from Basic Training.
Right.
I think there might be a different skin color though. I think Tak was blue, and they looked more of a greenish color. I don't know if that's like a specific decision, or if that's or maybe a coloring error or something.
Yeah, it's always.
I know that tends to happen on shows, or shows like this. It tends to happen sometimes. And the last thing I'm going to mention about this is that the Old George is obviously they mention he's the first Forever Knight. I don't think they meant to say in this episode, but I know in a later episode, Old George is referred to as the First Knight, which immediately makes me think of the Sean Connery movie called First Knight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which was about King Arthur, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly.
It was, it was a unique take on the Arthurian story, yeah.
Yeah. Although, now I think about it, this season having kind of some elements of Arthurian legend do make some sense, even though King Arthur's not actually in the show. I suppose Old George could probably be like a stand-in King Arthur. Although given who he is, probably not necessarily a stand-in, but like a parallel maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Next episode, Simeon says... I'm kind of two minds about this episode. I like the fact that they're including characters that were introduced earlier in the show, and also the fact that they're adding more connectiveness to the Alien Force, first two seasons of Alien Force, with the DNA aliens and the hybrid conspiracy and everything.
Yeah.
So like continuing that, but then I'm also like, they also bring back Simeon, who last I checked, that episode ended with Simeon, with it being very strongly implied that Simeon was killed, but in this episode, they established that Simeon wasn't killed, but he was captured and then he escaped.
Yeah.
Which is not how that scene. I'm pretty sure that was not the implication that scene was going for.
Right. I think there was enough ambiguity, though, that they could probably get away with it.
Although I feel like a giant alien pointing an acidic ear cleaner directly at the other person, and then you hearing the sound of the acid coming out.
Yeah.
It kind of implies that he used the ear cleaner on Simeon. Although given how strong the acid is, I'm sure the acid was fine for like DNA aliens and hybrids. It probably works exactly as intended for them. But I suppose any other alien life form, it probably is a little more lethal to them.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? I mean, I could totally see, he's a spider monkey, so he shot some sort of webbing, around himself that protected himself long enough to get away or something. Who knows? There's explanations.
They do also, in this episode, they do also show when Simeon tells Ben tells the group like what happened to him. We do actually see like a hybrid warship in space, and he like breaks out of a cell and escapes, and also takes a capsule with him that contains a DNA alien. Although given that Simeon has been shown to be a liar, it's probably not best to take that too seriously, or to at least look at that story or that visual maybe with some skepticism.
Yeah, it's fine to be skeptical, but at least it's plausible.
Yeah. I also noticed that the Arachniship homeworld looks a lot like Kashyyyk from Star Wars.
Yeah.
Because it has the bridge pathways in the trees and everything.
Yep.
And also the trees reaching really high in the air. Although I'm pretty sure Kashyyyk doesn't have giant worm shark things. Well, the Simeon calls them root sharks. I don't know if that's actually their name or if he just calls them that. And we also learned that this character here, Mizar, I don't remember his name now. Something like that. Yeah, but when he has the DNA alien on him, instead of him being like a servant of the hybrid, he actually has a strong enough will to fight back against it and actually use that to his advantage. Which I think, aside from someone losing their memory and not realizing they're a DNA alien, I don't think we've ever actually seen anyone like actually overpower like a DNA alien, possessing them with like just force of will. Oh, there it is. Mizaru. There's his name. I also did find it funny that right at the very end of the episode, right when he's like saying like like shouting to Ben that he's made a dangerous enemy, and then one of the root sharks bursts out of the ground and eats him. I do find that kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
It was just kind of like chomp.
Yeah. We also have the I don't know why I didn't mention the DNA repair guns, and they don't work. And also, they in the actual episode they do actually explain why the DNA repair guns aren't working, because they're set to turn DNA aliens back into humans, while what they're dealing with is arachnochimps that have been turned into DNA aliens. So it's not actually compatible with them. Although there is one thing that doesn't make sense to me is that when at the end of the episode, Simeon takes the DNA repair guns and sells them off to the incursions, which I don't know why the incursions would even want these guns, considering they're basically useless to them. Because I highly doubt the incursions are going to be fighting DNA aliens or humans that have been mutated into DNA aliens.
Maybe they're going to reverse it and make mutants.
Yeah. I also don't see the incursions as the kind of species that would want to cure humans. They'd probably just get rid of the DNA aliens regardless.
True.
I don't know, unless the specific incursion leader has no idea how these work and he just thinks they're regular guns, maybe. I mean, we didn't get any information as to like what Simon told him about it. All we know is Simon gave it to him and then got some money.
Yeah, that is true.
I'm just gonna go with the assumption that Simeon didn't actually tell him that they were basically useless to them. Mm-hmm. I mean, that makes perfect sense for his character anyway. Okay, next episode, Greetings from Tekadon. We get more of the samurai-looking robots. And we have something that's not really been done. As someone puts a bounty or a hit on Ben's head and hires a Tekadon, or was it a factory? Wait, does it actually say here? Yeah, they order a Tekadon factory to land on Earth and then keep producing Tekadons until Ben has been destroyed.
And they incorporate this concept of machine learning, this idea of and you know, Star Trek's used it with the Borg, and you know, it's been used everywhere else. You have a artificial intelligence that can't be stopped, because every time you find a way to counter it, it learns and it gets better and better. So it gets, you know, it's eventually going to win no matter what.
Yeah, because the whole Tekadon factory, like just pumping out Tekadons every time one's defeated.
Right.
The way Kevin describes it is very reminiscent of both the way Carl Reese describes the Terminator, and also the way the Omnidroid from The Incredibles is described as well. Like a combination of the two. Because it's a machine, it won't stop until the job's done, and also it's a learning machine, and the next one the next Tekadon to come out basically learns everything from the previous one and will be a lot tougher to beat. We also have at the very start of the episode where they're all playing mini golf with Julie as well, and obviously this shows like Julie being like really competitive. And I do find it funny that Ben turns into Brainstorm, like right as he's on like the point of where he's going to lose, and he turns into Brainstorm and just calculates like where the exact trajectory of where the ball's going to go and everything, like what it's going to bounce off of and roll down and everything. And then he hits the ball and it like goes exactly where he like planned it, and then it like gets a hole in one.
Yeah.
I do find that funny, and especially Julie's reaction as well. She's like immediately trying to like plan out another game of golf so she can actually beat him. And I know this is a background thing, but one of the props, well, not props, one of the background elements of the golf course is very obviously meant to look like Godzilla.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if there's an image of it here. Yeah, here it is. And I'm pretty sure it's the same golf course that we saw midway through season 3 of Alien Force, when Vilgax came down to Earth after he freed Ghost Freak. I'm pretty sure this is the exact same golf course. Yeah, see, that's very clearly Godzilla.
Yeah.
But different enough so that Toho doesn't send copyrights and everything.
Right.
And I suppose you could say that's the Eiffel Tower, but considering this is Godzilla, I'm more inclined to think that this is probably meant to be Tokyo Tower.
Could be.
Yeah. And of course the giant robot, which now I think about it, doesn't strongly resemble any kind of Japanese giant robot in any sense. I think it's just a robot.
No, just references the trope.
Yeah. And we get more Wrath. Because
Right.
the first Tekadon to appear, Ben turns into Wrath and starts fighting it. And of course we get more.
I don't like him.
I do. Let me tell you something.
I think it's the voice that turns me off so much.
It's Bender.
I know.
Yeah.
Like I said.
Yeah, he's the exact same voice actor.
Yep.
Yeah. It's just, I don't like him. Plus, he comes off as being kind of stupid.
Yes, that's the whole shtick.
And it's like, none of the other aliens seem to be stupid.
But that is interesting, right? Because you do have a couple of aliens that he can become that make him smarter. Here's one that just makes him dumber.
Yeah. Although sometimes the intelligence kind of varies.
Yeah.
Because I remember in the original series, Grey Matter would be like he's smarter than Ben, but sometimes he would be the same intelligence as Ben, but like slightly more, and then other times he'll be like way past Ben's level of intelligence.
Yeah.
So that was kind of inconsistent there. That definitely jumped around based on what the writers wanted Grey Matter to actually be capable of. Oh yeah, and also have Kevin does mention that when they bring up that the previous Tekadon robots that they bowed weren't that difficult and it wasn't really that special, and Kevin like points out that that those Tekadon robots were off the shelf models that anyone can just program to do something, or can buy and then program. Whereas the Tekadon robots coming after Ben in this episode are like custom models that are specifically designed for like the purpose that they're for like the whatever role they're filling, and that whoever paid for the Tegadon factory to pump these out would have to be very wealthy and have to spend quite a lot on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do like the fact that Gwen actually uses that knowledge to figure out who it is that's ordered the Tegadon factory.
Yeah.
And she comes to Volcanus.
Mm-hmm.
I also like the fact that although you don't realize it at the time, but then you do find out after the fact, is that Gwen actually got Argit to help her convince Volcanus to then go to Earth. Well, obviously he's not aware that she did that. He just thinks Argit's coming over and chatting to him, just for no reason. I do like that. It's like shows Gwen actually using some like tactics.
Yeah.
When trying to convince, or like using some kind of like tactical thinking with situations like this.
Right.
It also helps that Volcanus isn't very smart.
True.
Oh yeah, I also like I like Ben's solution to this episode, but at the same time, it does kind of, there are some holes in it, because he takes off his jacket and wraps it around the Ontrix so that the Tegadon robot can't track him.
Yeah, it does seem kind of.
Yeah.
Really, that is what's going to prevent him from recognizing that almost as though the only way that he knows that there's an Omnitrix is by seeing it. It's not a scan. Yeah. It's not some sort of energy it gives off. It's the actual visual representation of it.
Yeah. And also the factory, the Tegadon factory itself, as far as I'm aware, it's not moved. We don't ever see it moved from, like, it just lands right in the middle of the city, just blocking the road. I think it covers like the entire road there. So, and they can't actually, Ben can't use Big Chill to phase through it because it has a shield and it just bounces him right off.
Right.
And it has defenses and everything. So I'm thinking, once Ben like covers up the Ultimatrix so the Tekadon robot can't track him, and then they place an ID mask on Volcanus and turn it, configure it so it turns into the Ultimatrix or the Omnitrix logo, so that then the Tekadon thinks that Volcanus is Ben. I'd like the solution, but I feel like that's not really a long-term solution for this problem.
Well, I also don't see how wrapping something around the Omnitrix keeps it from being tracked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it does force the viewer to have to invent the ending. What seems reasonable long term is that it convinces what's his name. Okay, if I am the guy who hired these robots and they're coming after me, I just need to call them off. He calls them off, it ends the situation, and he decides it's not worth getting into this again.
Yeah. Although Volcanus did mention that that he can't just simply call off the Tekadons, because it's kind of a case of once the factory's been paid for and it's assigned to its job, that basically is going to be there until the job's done.
Yeah,
so I'm just thinking, how do they actually get rid of the factory from the city? Because that's, aside from it being there to pump out Tekadons to then go after Ben,
right,
it's also an actual physical object in the way of like everybody else in the city.
Well, you also have now the object is no longer Ben, it's somebody else who now leaves Earth, so maybe they reclaim their factory. So well, we don't need it here anymore.
Yeah, I mean the episode never goes into any of that. It just
True
puts like it just like leaves you with the robot thinks Volcanus is Ben. It's going after him. Volcanus has flew into space, and then Technodon chased after him. But the factory's still in the middle of the city, and no one can seemingly really do anything about that. And also, Kevin mentioned in an earlier part of the episode that when they suggested that they go to the Weapon Masters of Technodon to like sort this out, Kevin said that that you don't go to the Weapon Masters. That it doesn't work like that. Although, funnily enough, we'll actually see a Weapon Master of Technodon in a later episode.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind this episode, but there are some areas it could have used a bit of more work.
Yeah, and then it's like at the end they managed to get the thing to go away. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
But I think the best line was, "Hey, we had your powers. Did you ever try ours?" And it's like,
oh, didn't think of it.
Okay, next episode, Flamekeeper Circle. Now we're getting into the more Lovecraftian elements of this particular season.
A lot of Lovecraft this season.
Call of Cthulhu.
Yep. So we have the Flamekeeper's Circle cult. Well, on the surface they don't appear to be a cult, but that's exactly what they are. Yep.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, I think that fixed it.
Yep. So, whenever you deal with Lovecraftian elements, you oftentimes the recurring theme, the recurring element is a cult, right? And we tend to think of cults as these guys with crysknives in robes, standing around chanting.
Yeah.
We kind of forget that there's a lot of stuff that leads up to that. And that has to do more with the modern depiction of the cult, the real world depiction of the cult.
Especially since cults weren't originally like, this had this negative view on them, because you had the Greek religion,
right?
The different gods. They would be called like the cult of what is it? Like the cult of Poseidon or the cult of Hermes, that sort of thing. And like in that time, they didn't actually see the phrase cult as like a negative thing.
Right. It was more thought of as the way we would use denomination for a specific religion. It's just a compatible but compartmentalized portion of a religion. But the fact is, something as radical as worshiping a extra dimensional creature that's going to destroy the world, that requires a very, very separate, very unique kind of indoctrinational process. So the modern concept of the cult makes absolutely perfect sense,
Yeah.
And so they definitely play up on all of those, strange, I don't know, Branch Davidian, Scientology, type, themes here.
Yeah, because the main leader of the Flamekeeper Circle, obviously on the surface they're just like a charity organization.
Yep.
But behind the scenes they're actually the cult of an extra dimensional demon squid thing.
Yeah, imagine that. Some world-ending, reshaping type of maniacal organization pretending to be a charity. I mean,
Yeah.
can you imagine that ever happening in real life?
Yeah.
But I digress.
Yeah. Because obviously the cult mentality is very apparent in this episode. Because
Yeah.
when Ben discovers that the Dagon that they or the demon in question, the Dagon that they believe will come back to the Earth and what was it, bring a new age of peace or whatever it is they believe he'll do, or whatever it is he has been telling them that he'll do when he comes back. But the Ben discovers that the Dagon that they believe, or that they think that they've discovered, is actually Vilgax. It's still in his water, or his like true form. It just so happens that Vilgax's true form has a strong resemblance to the extra-dimensional demon that they, well, I don't know if you could say they worship, but like they revere. Yeah, and there's also that part at the very end when one of the esoterica are like asking Conduit Edwards if Ben was right, and in what I suppose is standard cult mentality of stamp down any kind of doubt and like any kind of doubt and independent thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because cult mentality doesn't work if the individual members speak or think for themselves.
Exactly. That's the whole idea.
Yeah, and I know this is I don't know if this is a common trope, but for whatever reason, it's just like a trope that reoccurs every now and then that I like really enjoy, is like a villain who like feigns weakness and then uses that to then manipulate someone else into helping them, and then and then like and then gaining more power from that, or by doing that, because it's something that actually happens multiple times, or not necessarily in this show. I think Virax does this like only like on two separate occasions, obviously with this episode and then in a later episode. But it does also happen in like other kids' cartoons as well, and a few comics as well. I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And of course, this episode introduces the Esoterica, who are here's an image, who are these guys. They kind of look like a cross between ninjas and monks. And of course, they have the ability to shift between dimensions, although no explanation is given as to how they do that.
Yeah.
Okay, I am kind of amused that the Google has brought up mostly images on the episode that we're talking about, but it's also decided to put in an image of Squidward.
Yeah. But, it visually makes sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think it's because the title of the actual image is related to the episode we're talking about.
Oh.
I think that's why Google brings up images that have no relation to something. I think it's because the title either is the same as everything else or has some
one of the search
similar
parameters
word.
has some sort of connection, yeah.
Although that doesn't explain why some of these other images that are very clearly from other episodes and also doesn't have similar words in the title, but it still brings them up anyway. I'm going to assume this is because the
It's just simply the Ben 10 Ultimate Alien part.
Yeah. Next episode, Double or Nothing. So now we've already had the first reappearance of Vilgax in Ultimate Alien. So now we have the first reappearance of Albedo in Ultimate Alien. With not really any kind of explanation as to how he survived Vilgax's ship sinking under the ocean and then exploding. Like Vilgax surviving that, we can kind of somewhat believe because he's a big tough guy. So and also water is being underwater has some level of benefits to him. So we can kind of understand he would survive an exploding ship underwater. But Albedo, I don't understand how he survived that, or how he got away from that.
Cartoon logic.
Yeah. Or I suppose just TV and movie tropes in general. If we don't see the body, they're not dead.
Right, exactly.
Yep. And if you knock them down, hit them again, make sure they stay down.
Right.
Yeah. Although now I think about it, cartoons most of the time aren't necessarily allowed to actually show a dead body. I mean, sometimes they can kind of stretch the limit of that and imply like a dead body, but I don't think they can actually show like an actual dead body on screen. Yeah, so this episode has Albedo basically committing identity fraud to make money off of Ben's fame.
Right.
And Ben's weirdly enough the only one who actually like has a problem with, or has a real problem with this. Like, I know Kevin kind of like he agrees with Ben, but he doesn't really seem that like that. It doesn't seem like that like it's that much of a problem for Kevin, but he does agree with Ben. And for some reason, Gwen doesn't really see any kind of problems with this, even though there clearly are problems. Although I do find it funny that when they're actually watching the stage play, like at first it's like Gwen doesn't really seem to have a problem with this, and then like the thing that makes her change her mind is like the 10 like the 10 sexy Gwens like walking out, and then Gwen has a problem with it.
Yeah.
I did find that funny. And of course the nice use of the fact that Ben's aliens are actual species out in the universe. Albedo hires alien or similar alien species that look roughly the same as how Ben does.
Right.
Like we have Hugh, who is wearing glasses, and I mean when he's not wearing glasses, he's basically the exact same model as Humongousaur. Right. Like, he's probably the most believable as like pretending to be Ben. While I don't know, I don't think we ever get the names of the Swamp Fire and the Big Chill guys. Yeah, but these two they're a bit more apparent in the fact that they're not quite, they're not really Ben or his aliens, because both of them have pot bellies.
Right.
But it was clever how he did the whole act. It's like, because you're like, wait, how is he doing that?
The one thing that's a little bit telling is whenever he changes, there's some sort of a simple effect, an explosion with smoke or something. You don't actually see him change, and that's the stage cue for a swap out of another actor.
Yeah.
But it's still clever,
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
if the guy's stuck on Earth, this was a way to make money. And it's like it's not his own likeness.
True.
He
Yeah.
does look like him. He just has white hair.
And red eyes,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which he covers up by putting on contact lenses, putting on a wig, and then changing into a green jacket.
It's the green jacket that really sells it.
Yeah. But it is kind of thrown off by the fact that he has Dante's hair.
Yeah.
Actually, that might have been intentional now I think about it, because Dante has grey hair and wears a red jacket.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably me reading too much into it, but I now just noticed that.
Hmm.
Yeah. And yeah, the whole reason Albedo was gathering all this money. I mean, he says that it's just like because he doesn't have any money, he's stranded on this planet, he needs something to live off of. Well, that's what he says, but obviously we learn later on that he was putting a lot of that money into buying all sorts of technology and alien equipment to construct this spherical device behind him. Actually, this is a better image for that. Yeah, and his whole plan is to build this and then use it to rewrite his DNA so that he can return to being a Galvin again.
Right.
And Hugh comes up to Ben, Gwen, and Kevin and tells them, well, he basically lies to them about what Albedo's doing,
Right.
so that he doesn't lose his friend. Which, I mean, it's a nice sentiment and all, but at the same time, he's kind of causing Albedo to be trapped in a body that's not his own, and also in a body that he doesn't even like being in to begin with. Yeah, and when Ben like starts fighting Albedo and the place explodes, and we see that Albedo has been returned back to his normal Galvin form. I do like the fact that once he's returned to normal, he doesn't have a problem with Ben anymore. Well, for the brief moment that he actually is in his Galvin form, because he very quickly returns back to the human Ben form,
Mm-hmm.
and he tries concentrating to like turn back into a Galvin, and then he keeps like shifting back and forth until eventually he can't return to his Galvin form again.
Yeah, I kind of felt bad for him at that point. It's like,
Yeah,
that was a fail.
yeah. He definitely has a superiority complex, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that's because he's a Galvin and Galvin's like smarter than humans, or if it's just like his specific personality. But yeah, like obviously we get a very clear indication of like the whole superiority complex, because when Hugh comes forward and says that he's the one who told them like what he was doing or lied to them about what he was doing in order to cause them to stop him from doing that, so that Hugh doesn't lose his friend. Albedo's like he's like he's actually like not mad at Hugh for this, because he says, I'm not mad at you, and then he immediately turns around and points at Ben. And he's like I blame you.
Yeah.
Although in fairness, this actually technically was Ben's fault, but Ben didn't know what he was. Ben was like just misled. So I suppose this is an instance where it's only somewhat actually Ben's fault, but not necessarily completely. Oh, there's an image of Albedo's Galvin form. I think he might be the only Galvin to have red eyes.
That's from staying up all night, you
know. Yeah. Oh yeah, and the show itself, because Albedo called it Ben 10 Live, and the stage show itself was being hosted in Nemesis Tower, which I find funny that after Captain Nemesis has been defeated and I assume thrown to jail, his tower has been repurposed as a theatre. It's a bit of a strange choice of repurposing for the building. Although we never saw much of the inside, so we don't really know what else it could have been. Okay. Next episode, The Perfect Girlfriend. So now we have the second part of the Swarm, or the Revenge of the Swarm, like the second part of that.
And you think that Ben would click in at some point going, Julie never acts like this.
He does have this way of
being oblivious,
ignoring the obvious when it suits him.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's actually very apparent. Well, once you know that Elena as the Swarm Queen, the second you know that it's her involved, it kind of actually becomes a lot more easy to spot when Elena disguises herself as Gwen and enters the story.
Right.
Because obviously at the very start we see Ben walking with Julie to the airport because she's got a tennis game like overseas. So
she's complaining that he won't be with her.
Right.
Yeah. And then the police scanner in his car is broadcasting like the serpent is loose and the police are trying to recapture him. And at first Gwen's tries to slide it past Ben's radar so that he doesn't walk away from Julie at this moment. But Ben persists at knowing what's going on. So when Gwen actually turns up the scanner and actually lets Ben hear what it is, Ben then goes off to then fight Serpent, and Julie and Gwen go into the airport instead. And it's right after this that we then is when Elena as the Swarm comes in disguised as Julie, because Ben turns into a goop and enters the warehouse that Serpent is hiding in, and he gets trapped in there, and then it cuts to outside of the warehouse where Julie just randomly appears next to the police, next to the SWAT team, and also she's in a different outfit that she was wearing when she went to the airport. So I suppose if you pay attention, you can very clearly see at what point Elena comes in, because it's right there when she suddenly appears next to the SWAT team. That's from that point on, it's basically Elena.
Right.
And obviously it becomes more apparent as you go through the episodes because you get multiple different hints that it's not actually Julie. because you have Ship growling and barking at her, and then you also have also Julie herself not quite acting like herself, because instead of it being like an actual relationship, she's acting more like she's just there to just do what Ben wants.
Right. She comes off a little bit robotic, actually.
I suppose that makes sense considering she is mostly mechanical at this point. Actually, I don't know how much of her like her actual human or her actual humanity is even left in all like the swarm chips. Well, that makes sense why Ship would recognize that it's not Julie, because he can probably because he's a mechanical himself, so he can probably like sense the chips. Yeah. And we also have the Serpent himself. He's not exactly A tier in terms of a villain. I mean he's trying, but yeah, he's not exactly A tier. I would consider him probably more to be like a B tier or a C tier villain.
True.
Yeah, and we also have a moment in when Julie, Kevin, or Julie, I say, Kevin and Gwen are shopping, and or the Julie herself, she pushes Gwen down the elevator shaft, which I mean she makes it look like she had no idea the elevator wasn't there and that she's not looking, but I feel like she probably did that intentionally.
Right.
Because she saw Gwen as an obstacle between her and Ben. And of course, you have the part where someone's actually like looking at the elevator to see what went wrong with it, and when Ben goes down there to try and figure out what's going on with it, and he accidentally causes the elevator to then start dropping, and Julie then uses, or not Julie, Elena uses the nanochips to stop the elevator from crushing Ben, and then obviously the guy comes back and he's like just as confused as to what's going on here as before.
Right.
Because not only was the elevator not working before, but the brakes were disabled, so the elevator shouldn't have stopped when it started falling. Obviously to him he has no idea why, but because to us we actually do know why this is happening, what's going on here. Because we even see Julie's eyes light up before she uses the chips to stop the elevator. And of course, because Gwen is injured and can't really do much, she sends Kevin to spy on Julie and follow her. And of course, while he's following her, she uses the nanochips to bring to life some of the buildings in the area, which is very reminiscent of Devil May Cry 2, because that game also had buildings that came alive. Yeah, and I do like the fight with when Ben Ben appears as way big and starts fighting the buildings.
Right.
That's very clearly meant to be like an homage or a reference to like tokusatsu films. Especially since Way Big Species is named after the tokusatsu genre itself. And of course, we've gone into before that he's based on Ultraman and everything, so it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed this, but you know when at the end when Elena turns into the actually let me see if there's an image here. Yeah, when she turns into like this form here. Oh, yeah, this image.
Yeah.
This isn't from this episode, but it's the same look.
Right.
I don't know if you noticed this as well, but she kind of looks like Hela from
She does.
the Marvel comics, specifically like well the Marvel comics version of Hela.
Right.
Obviously not the same colors, but the same general appearance is the same. And of course, at the end, when Elena uses the nanochips to start suffocating Ben, and Julie does actually point out that if Elena really cares about Ben, then she wouldn't, and she's been doing all this to like try and protect Ben and keep Ben alive. That doesn't make sense for her to then at the end of this episode try and kill Ben. And obviously you can see in the actual you can see with Elena she's like kind of conflicted about that. Is that about everything we have on this episode?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, next episode, Ultimate Sacrifice. Okay, do you want to go first with this one?
Trying to remember. Let's see. This was.
Yeah, it's the one where the ultimate forms become sentient.
Right. And this is another one of those trips into the Omnimatrix episodes.
Yeah.
So, and it also involves the return of Ghost Freak, whom we haven't seen in a very, very long time.
Yeah. It's also kind of fitting that Ghost Freak is one of the aliens we see Ben turns into in this episode.
Yep.
Yeah, given that the ultimate forms want to be free from the Ultimatrix, so it makes sense that Ben is using Ghost Freak.
So one thing that I was a little unclear about was why is it the ultimate versions of these aliens that are rebelling and none of the others? Is it a function of the way this Ultimatrix is created, or I didn't really understand.
Yeah, it's because it's a glitch in the Ultimatrix. It's the like the actual evolutionary function, but well, I don't think the evolutionary function necessarily caused this, but like a glitch with that specific part of the Ultimatrix is what caused them to become sentient. And it's not the base forms, because you even see the difference the second you see Ben come in and he's Humongousaur, and he's perfectly fine. The second we see him turn into Ultimate Humongousaur, like his eyes are different and his personality is changed. Yeah, so This episode, I like the fact that at the beginning of the episode, when they, because they see that Ultimate Humongous has red eyes, when they immediately start theorizing as to why Ben's acting like this, and one of the theories they come to is that he's under Albedo's control because he has red eyes.
Right.
But they, I think they either rule out that theory, or I think it's confirmed that it's not that. Obviously, as the episode goes, we understand that it's not any kind of outside interference, but it's just the Ultimatrix has glitched and caused all these ultimate forms to then become sentient. Although I noticed Wildmout's ultimate form wasn't affected. It was just the 5 ultimate forms that we had at the very start of the show. Yeah. And I also like the fact that when they actually restrain Ultimate Humongousaur, Gwen calls in like a psychiatrist to try and figure out what's going on with him. I did like that.
I do.
Especially the fact the psychiatrist is very calm.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised they haven't thought to do that before.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously, as we already mentioned, Ben turns into Ghost Freak while he's inside the Omnitrix, or Ultimatrix. And I also like the fact that Gwen and Kevin, they both have different ideas on how to fix this problem, because Gwen uses her magic and recognizes that Ben is inside the Ultimatrix.
Yeah.
So she decides to go inside the Ultimatrix. Well, Kevin thinks that actually going to Azimuth is the better option because he's the one who made he didn't make the Ultimatrix specifically, but he made the Omnitrix core that is inside the Ultimatrix, and he made the Omnitrix, so he has some experience in this sort of thing. So I like the fact that instead of them arguing about which one to go, they just decide to split up and go with their individual plans. So Kevin takes the Rust Bucket at 3 and goes to Galvin Prime, while Gwen goes inside the Ultimatrix. Yeah, and I think this actually would have been a good point for the show itself to actually delve a little deeper into how the evolutionary function works. But sadly, they don't do that. Yeah, so they while Ben's in the Omnitrix, they come to the Ultimates say that that once Ben is dead, that they will then be free from the Omnitrix, or free. I don't think they specifically say from the Omnitrix, but they just say that they'll be free. And I like the
saying that makes it indicates that they're in discomfort being stuck in there.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like that Ben. Well, after Gwen comes in and tries to stop the Ultimates, Ben tells her to stand down. Or she says that she's going to destroy the transformations, and Ben tells her to stand down, and he says that he doesn't know how they branched off and became individuals, but they deserve to live just the same. And then he and then he goes over to the fiery pit that was shown earlier in the episode, and then he like jumps off the edge and sacrifices himself so that they can live. Also, and then obviously we get right at the very end, we're then revealed that that Ben's sacrifice was recognized by the Ultimatrix, and that it then, once Ben sacrificed himself, the ultimate forms were then like released from the Omnitrix or sent out of the Ultimatrix. And Azimuth even says that like I think it was the meaning of his actions were what the Ultimatrix recognized, and because it like the glitch was then corrected. I think it was either Azimuth fixed the glitch or Ben's sacrifice caused the glitch to then be fixed. I don't quite remember which way it is.
But what I also found interesting here is it does seem to kind of parallel Eunice. This whole idea of the Matrix or whatever, because they're different styles, creating a life form, and that life form.
Yeah.
The fact that it's an artificial life form doesn't make it any less a life form. It doesn't make it any less worthy of living,
Yeah.
And it's not just because Ben had a crush on Eunice. This was his true convictions about heroism and life, and he was willing to sacrifice himself for a bunch of aliens that were trying to kill him.
Yeah. I do find it strange though that it's only the like the 5 or 6 ultimate forms that Ben had at the very start of the show. I feel like that was probably a case of the people making the show just decided to use the only ultimate forms that had been designed. Well, not by that point, because also we had Ultimate Wildmutt a couple episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
But for whatever reason, Ultimate Wildmutt was not made sentient as well. I do find that kind of strange.
Here's how I kind of figured it. Okay, the whole idea behind the ultimate versions. These are aliens that do not exist in reality. They are a projection of what the evolutionary course for these aliens would be, right?
Yeah.
So if the Ultimatrix is extrapolating out their evolution, it's kind of a learning algorithm, right? So the more that Ben uses them, the more they become defined individuals. And I think that's where the glitch lies. Now, again, that's just my headcanon, but it's reasonable.
Yeah, they never fully explain why the glitch happened, or like go into any greater detail as to what exactly caused the glitch or why it even happened.
Right.
Yeah. Although I do feel this show kind of doesn't necessarily underutilize the ultimate form, because that's basically the gimmick of the show. But the what's the gimmick and the selling point of the show overall. But it's kind of weird because Ben can basically turn any of the aliens he can turn into, he can use the ultimate form of. But I think it's because the people making the show only designed a certain number of ultimate forms for the aliens.
Right.
I mean, obviously it's framed in a way where Ben can basically turn any of his aliens into their ultimate form, but because the creators only designed a certain number of ultimate forms, Ben only uses those number of ultimate forms that have been designed. Obviously, these were designed to sell toys, so there were toys designed based on the ultimate forms.
That's exactly it. I mean, it's the whole limitation of animation. It's how many models you've created, how many visual representations they were willing to deal with. You know,
Yeah.
that's a big part of why. Oh, he only gets 10 aliens, even though in canon he's got access to thousands.
Yeah. Or he only uses like a certain number of aliens per episode. Yeah, and although I feel like the ultimate feature would have been a perfect opportunity to sell more toys, because you could literally just design like any of the aliens that have had toy releases before. You could literally just design an ultimate form of, because it will look different enough, and then sell that as a separate toy, like they did with these ultimate forms.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that gives you the opportunity to make a whole bunch more toys to sell, but they didn't do that, which is although obviously I have no connection to the company in question, so I don't know why they decided on only a specific number. There could be a number of reasons why they didn't make more toys based on ultimate forms.
Yeah, it seems like a really wasted opportunity.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Oh yeah, and the galvanic mechamorph security that Kevin is fighting on Galvin Prime. At one moment, it takes the form of a Naboo starfighter from the Phantom Menace. I don't know if that was. I did look at the wiki for the episode, and it doesn't mention the fact that it turns into a Naboo starfighter at all.
Yeah,
So I'm
I mean,
led to believe it's might not be like a direct reference, but like just more of a visual inspiration.
Yeah, there's a lot of times where the showrunners have done things, and the people writing the wikis just don't catch it.
Yeah, yeah, like which one is it? Yeah, there's one thing that I noticed about I believe it's one of the next three episodes. There's like a reference that I noticed, but the wiki for the episode doesn't mention that. Which was it? Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's the final episode we'll be talking about. Oh, Troy's gone. Yeah, in the final episode, there's one reference that I noticed that wasn't listed in the wiki, so I don't know. I'm going to assume the people writing the wiki for that particular episode just didn't notice that, or just didn't notice what was the specific reference being the specific thing being referenced. Okay, yeah. Welcome back.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, so next episode, the widening guys, yeah, I don't know how to pronounce that. Do you know how to pronounce this word?
Let's see here.
This G word at the end. I don't know why.
I assumed it was the widening gyre.
That's what it looks like to me. Gyro. I mean, think of it if the first letter was a T instead of a G, that would be tire. So with the G, gyro.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if the actual name of the episode has any relevance on the actual overall story of the episode. Yeah, so this episode features a sentient trash island. I'm kind of curious if trash islands are an actual thing, because I've seen that in multiple different fictional stories, but I don't actually know if it's like a real thing.
Yeah, it's called a sargasso. It's when you have a bunch of different currents, like in the ocean, there is a natural point where, you know, the water isn't moving because the currents are all moving around it. So
Yeah.
anything that's floating in the water will just over time gravitate to that place. And yes, there really are these sargassos of, trash. And I say trash because it has become floating plastic and things that people have thrown in the water, but these are also naturally occurring things. I mean, there's going to be animal corpses and algae and seaweed, and even if there was never any pollution, these things would still exist.
Okay. Because I do also remember a Family Guy episode featuring a trash island. I think there are other forms of entertainment that also bring up the whole trash island thing, but obviously this has a unique spin on it by the fact that the trash is sentient.
Right.
Or has become sentient. Yeah. And we just have Kevin making references to other TV shows, but not actually being able to remember what the TV shows are.
Yeah, that was kind of clever. I mean, it was that whole.
Obviously, so the obviously he's not obviously the writers know exactly what shows they're referencing, but I don't know if it's a case of they either don't want to or can't directly name the shows they're referencing.
I don't know if there's any concerns about rights. I think it's more of part of the joke.
Yeah.
It's like, well, let's just see who catches it, and gets it.
Yeah. Hey, maybe using a heart ring on the trash monster will work. Or maybe that won't work because it doesn't actually have a heart.
True.
Then I suppose a fire ring will just have to do, or an earth ring or whatever. Yeah, it's earth, fire, water, wind, and then heart, isn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah, I think it's the 4 elements, and then the 5th one is heart. Which to me kind of sounds kind of strange, because everyone else gets like flame powers and shooting water and making the earth move, and then the one guy just gets heart that doesn't appear to do anything super flashy. Yeah, and this reference might have been intentional, or maybe it was just a complete coincidence. But the whole living trash is very similar to a Godzilla movie, because there was one of the Godzilla movies from the Showa era. I think this was the 70s, I believe. Mm-hmm. It was Godzilla versus Hedorah, or Hedorah, when an alien came down and merged with a pile of trash and became a giant trash monster. And then it proceeded to fight Godzilla, shoot lasers out its eyes, and also poop on Godzilla. That is not a joke. That actually happens in the film. Or poop trash on him.
That is just wow. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Yeah, he's like in a giant pit or hole in the ground, and Hedorah is above him, and he just starts like pooping like liquid trash on him.
That was gross.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know you can kind of interpret it as maybe he's vomiting or doing something else, but considering the trash is coming from underneath him and by his like legs and everything, I'm pretty sure he was pooping.
Yeah. And I'm sure that was intentional.
Better out
Yeah.
than in?
Yeah. But I suspect that in the original, in the Godzilla as well as here, I'm sure it was meant to have the same allegorical concept. We're dealing with, you know, um, environmental, type issues, right?
Yeah.
So I get it.
Actually, I might as well very quickly. Oh, okay. There's a review of the movie. Oh, yeah. This right here is what Hedorah looks like.
Yikes.
I'm not gonna worry about the sound because I don't really worry about the sound necessarily. Actually, does this? Okay, no, I think this scene's after the. Yeah, I think that's. Yeah, because they determine that Hedorah is weak to electricity, so they get these giant like mirrors either side and fire electricity between the two and get Hedorah in between them. Yeah. Weirdly enough, this movie has very LSD inspired imagery.
I guess,
Despite
yeah.
despite it being about pollution or having like an undercurrent of pollution and a giant trash monster or giant alien possessing a trash pile.
I guess. Wow.
I mean, Japanese like 60s and 70s Japanese movie or tokusatsu movies are definitely very strange.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Okay,
would
it's
say
not.
so.
You know what? I know the clips in here in this review, so I'm. Oh no, go. I would say go ahead and watch the review or watch this channel, but where is it? Oh, there it is. Yeah, you can morph into some kind of UFO form for some reason. Not sure why. Well, other than the fact that he's an alien. Yeah, this is the. Yeah, so he falls into a hole.
He's like, I'm stuck. Oh, I've fallen and I can't get out.
That's some weird stuff, for sure.
Yeah.
I can say I don't know how much of that you can show without getting some sort of copyright strike.
Yeah, be a little bit.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's why. I mean, even that specific reviewer would every now and then just put bold letters flagged by Toho over most of the screen, even if it actually wasn't. But I think that's because at one point a few of his reviews were actually flagged by Toho at one point. Yeah, and also the like this living trash line, he's very like Sandman-esque in the way he's presented, because he can be chopped to pieces and he just touches the trash on the ground to like regenerate himself. Very similar to what like Sandman would do if he was on a beach or something.
Yeah.
And we also have on this island are giant mutant seagulls who also use the same roar as Anguirus from the Godzilla movies. And the only reason that Toho hasn't gone after the show creators for this is because the roar itself has been modified enough so it doesn't sound exactly like Anguirus's roar.
Yeah, it's obviously parody.
Yeah, because Toho can be pretty strict about other people using like the raw sound effects from their monsters. Yeah, and also we have another obvious reference to like God, or maybe not Godzilla specifically, but Tokusatsu movies in general, is the fact that Ben the trash island itself becomes giant size, and then Ben fights it as way big. And he fights it right next to, or right near the bridge. I think it's a San Francisco bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also one thing that is kind of obvious now I think about it, but the wiki for the episode mentioned that that this fight is very similar to the end boss for the Ben 10 game that came out at the time, because the final boss of that game took place in a very similar environment with way big and like two fights between giant aliens. Although there are some differences, but like the boss in question is another Toku star, and the place in question isn't necessarily in the river next to a bridge, but rather is in the river just next to a city. It's not completely identical, but it's similar.
Sure.
So it does kind of make me question at what point the time frame between when the game was made and when the episodes of this show were made, because the game itself, I have it, because I have it right here. Yeah, this is the 360 version. This has an exclusive alien you can play as, which is Raph for the Xbox version and Four Arms for the PS3 version. So yeah, this version I can play as Raph. This game has some similarities to some plot elements in some of the episodes of this season. So I am curious when this game was made, and if this game was directly taking inspiration from the episodes of the show, or if it's completely coincidence that they line up in certain places.
Yeah, don't know.
Yeah, there's the battle that's like similar to the battle in the end of this episode. Okay, is that everything we have on this episode?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, next episode, the mother of all riddles.
Yeah, this was a bit trippy.
Yep. So I mean, in a previous episode, we saw the Riedel brothers' father. So now we see the Riedel brothers' mother.
I guess so.
Yeah. And she's voiced by an actor who's been in this show, well, not Ultimate Alien, but like has voiced a character in this like series before, because she voiced the waitress in the diner back
Yep.
in season 1 of Alien Force,
Yep.
the one that was actually a Dean alien and fought Grandpa Max.
Right.
Oh, and the actor in question was also in the Nicolas Cage Wicker Man film.
That does not surprise me.
Yeah. I've forgotten her name, but yeah, she was. I would imagine the Nicolas Cage Wicker Man movie might be probably the easiest option to go for when trying to identify the actress in question. Yeah. I'd also like I like the fact that whenever we see the Riedel brothers or any member of their family or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
physics don't seem to apply to them most of the time, because they're flying through space and they'll like roll down the window of their vehicle and they won't suffocate, or the cabin of the car won't be decompressed or anything like that. It's perfectly fine.
Right.
Even though stuff like that still applies to everyone else, but the Riedel brothers and anyone related to them don't seem to have to worry about that. Yeah, because like with this image right here, it's like Marv Riedel is just on the top of the car, no problem.
Right.
It's just flying through space.
I love the apron strings.
Yeah.
That can come out and like type the kids, and the eyes in the back of her head. Typical mom tropes.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and this episode also introduces a character who will be a reoccurring character when we get to Omniverse, and that's Magister Pacelli.
Yeah.
He's I think he'll appear a few more times in Ultimate Alien, but he'll actually be a reoccurring character in Omniverse. Yeah, and we also have here he is. He's a member of Ripjaw's species. Yeah, and we have the Riedel brothers have, well, for the moment, have turned against the plumbers and are helping them and helping their mother rob banks, and she's yeah, she's bought another cloning kit. Yep. I'm assuming this one, given the fact that the clones don't come out defective in any way, I'm going to assume this cloning kit is actually in date. I do find that funny that like they still make reference to the fact that they're defective clones because of the out-of-date cloning kit that was used to make them.
Right.
And of course, Marv Riedel herself. She's smarter than the Riedel brothers, but she's still not that smart. Because I think at one point they're trying to lead you to believe that that Marv Riedel is like actually intelligent, or actually smarter than she looks. But when Ben's actually fighting her, he's able to like trick her, and he's surprised actually how much dumber she is than she actually appears. And it's like, I think Ben even says, is like, wow, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And also early on, they do kind of attempt to build up like a reputation, because when Kevin, Gwen, and Ben are in the Rust Bucket 3 and they're chasing after them, and they don't realize who it is at first. And as soon as Kevin sees that it's Marv Riedel, he immediately turns the ship around and starts flying the other way. Do you have much to say about this episode?
I didn't. This was, to me, it felt like a filler episode, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah.
Like, we need something to stuff in here. Let's do this. But I did think it was clever, the tied to the mother's apron strings bit when she tied up Ben, and like I said, like the eyes in the back of her head, because it's like, okay, somebody actually thought that bit out.
Yep.
But then, like Troy said, the rest of it just seemed like filler.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the end of the episode, when she's when they actually capture her, she gives us a reference to Scooby-Doo.
Yep.
Because she says she would have gotten away with it if it weren't for her kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Not exactly the same quote, but it's generally the same thing.
Definitely the intended allusion, yeah.
Yeah. Although I feel like that specific line from Scooby-Doo is referenced by quite a lot of things.
Yeah. Maybe a little too much sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, although the Scooby-Doo shows do tend to get repetitive after a while.
True.
Because you have basically the same formula being repeated over and over again. Because it happened with the original where Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Right. And also the next few shows like the Scooby-Doo show and a pup named Scooby-Doo, and I think it was also one with one that had Scrappy-Doo in the title. I forgot what that one was called.
I don't really remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have a couple of the Scooby-Doo shows on DVD. Yeah, I have which one was it? Yeah, it's 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo that I have, which ironically enough has 13 episodes for that show. And the whole plot of that show is about catching 13 ghosts and putting them back in a chest. Although, well, you might think because it has 13 episodes that each episode is about each individual ghost, but that's not quite the case. Most of the episodes of the show are about catching the 13 ghosts. But I think one or two of the episodes is just a random filler episode that has nothing to do with the overall plot. So by the end of that show, the overall story of the show itself isn't actually completed by the end. I think it was cancelled before it could actually get a proper end. Yeah. And also you have the 4 Scooby-Doo movies from the 90s, which are probably the best Scooby-Doo related thing that's been made so far. Let's see. Next and final episode, A Night to Remember.
Which, if I recall, is a play on the word night, like nighttime, and night, like King Arthur.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep. So this episode actually gives us more background on old George and like who he is, and just gives us some general information that we have been lacking so far.
Right.
Like Driscoll explains that old George is actually Saint George, and if I'm not mistaken, Saint George was a Roman soldier that then, well, I know something about him being a Roman soldier at one point. Yeah, so obviously they established that George himself is immortal. They never explain how he became immortal. I know they mention about the sword Ascalon playing some part in him being immortal, but apart from that, they don't really go into much detail on that specific thing. And yeah, okay. Obviously we get more cult mentality from the Esoterica and the Flamekeeper Circle, but the overall plot of the episode is that the Esoterica are trying to retrieve Dagon's heart, or for what they assume is Dagon, but it's actually Vilgax, and the Forever Knights are trying to reach Dagon's heart to prevent him from getting it back. And here's where the reference that I noticed that the wiki for the episode doesn't mention, and that's that the place where Dagon's heart and the sword Ascalon are, the sanctuary or the fort or whatever you want to call it, is where it's stored, is in a place that shifts between dimensions and moves around the world, and never rests in the same spot more than once.
I caught this too.
Yeah, which, no surprise, it's a reference to the movie movie Krull,
exactly.
with the Black Fortress teleporting around the place and not staying in the same spot for too long.
Yeah.
The wiki for this episode doesn't mention that whatsoever, which did confuse me, because I was like, I'm pretty sure that is a reference to Krull.
That one, you know?
Yeah.
It just seems so obvious.
Yeah, it's literally a part of the actual plot of the episode.
Yeah.
It's a plot point in the episode itself, rather than being a background detail.
Right.
I also think it's interesting that as soon as he puts on armor, he suddenly becomes young. It's like, it's magic
I believe that's because once he's reunited with the sword, I think it restores him back to the age he was when he first received the sword. I think. I don't know if they specifically explain that, but like, I'm pretty sure that's the age he was when he got the sword.
Too far ahead, but we do have I don't remember if it's this episode or later, but we get the revelation that the sword is actually an invention of Azimuth's, just like the Omnitrix. So just like the Omnitrix, it may change a person on their fundamental level.
Yeah, that's not this episode. That's actually the next episode.
But
after this one,
we do need to, point that out in order to, have a possible explanation for it.
And as that episode will explain, Ascalon was made before Azimuth started making the Omnitrix.
Right.
We'll go in, and also that episode further delves into the why of Azimuth building the Omnitrix.
True.
Yeah, so also the in George's quarters in the base, the Forever, or in the Area 51 like base that the Forever Knights have been operating out of. The it has all of the walls are covered in writing. I think it's like maths equations and everything. I think. Yeah, and it's like when Gwen like scans them all and like reads it and then determines what it all means, the coordinates that she writes on the wall are actually coordinates for an actual real world place.
Oh,
Oh. It's Orkney Islands up above Scotland.
Oh, okay.
You know those small collection of islands just above Scotland? Yes, there.
Interesting. Yep.
It's these up here, I believe.
I do love when they do stuff like that, kind of making it seem like it could be set in the real world, you know?
Yeah. And also those quotes are probably chosen because like Saint George is an important figure over here, or in our history over here.
Sure.
Because Saint George himself is literally what the English flag is based on. Well, because it's Saint George's cross. You know the white flag with the red cross. Yes, that's Saint George's cross. Which obviously this is a slightly different interpretation of the same character, but it's like generally the same character.
To this day, you still have an Order of Saint George, don't you?
Yes, I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we also have St. George's Day as well.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, multiple countries celebrate St. George's Day. Yeah, so we also have a moment where Vilgax gets his hands on Ascalon, and it returns him back to his land form, and then obviously he's encased in the armor as well. Well, he's briefly in this form, because then the Dagon actually communicates with Vilgax and tells him that by breaking the seal he can get more power, which is obviously exactly what Vilgax wants. I did also notice that the artwork for when Driscoll is actually telling the story of Saint George and the Dragon, and he's and you got this specific art style for the for that specific flashback or story. It actually has some visual similarities to Disney movies.
Very much. Specifically, I was going to say Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah, that right there looks pretty much almost exactly like Maleficent.
Yep.
Although I think pretty sure she's purple, not green.
Yeah. Definitely color differences, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's very much like an older Disney movie, or in its visual aesthetic. Yeah, and I suppose we could interpret Ascalon as a stand-in for Excalibur.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Although now I think about it, a lot of different cultures have a unique sword, from the medieval period.
Yep.
And I think some might be inspired by Excalibur, and then I think others might be completely independent, and it's just a coincidence that they're similar.
Well, I think it's in and of itself. I think it's an archetype. You know, the mystical weapon, the special weapon.
Yeah. Although I am curious if the story of Saint George and the Dragon, I am curious if that's older than the story of King Arthur, or if it's younger, or if it's about the same time period.
I would have to do a little digging into it, but I know that a lot of the Arthurian stories were combinations of different epic poems. So it's very possible that it predates, but it's one of the
had an
contributors
influence
for sure.
on Arthurian legend.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure St. George and the Dragon is a pretty well-known medieval tale.
Yeah.
Maybe not the exact details, but the general story is pretty well known by now. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, not many images for this episode. Well, we do get Raph again.
Yeah.
I think Raph is in this episode a smaller amount than the previous episode he was in.
Yep.
Yeah, it looks like I think the creators of the show, I think they like recognized that Raph was like had become a fan favorite at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. We also have this is the episode where Gwen actually like looks a little closer at the way the Esoterica move, and she actually like recognizes that they are that they when they like run up into the air, they're actually running on stairs that are in a different dimension. So they basically phase through into a different dimension when they move around, and that's how they're able to like be like jump so, or how they're able to like bounce off of stuff that's not even there.
Right.
Yeah, and this episode also introduces one of the new aliens that Ben 10,000 gave Ben. Where is there an image of him? Okay, no, of course, Google won't give me an image of the alien or of the alien related to the episode he's actually in. I'm gonna have to actually.
Right.
That's this guy. This is the new alien, one of the new aliens that Ben 10,000 gave Ben.
Ah, okay.
And now I actually look at it, his name makes a lot of sense because his name is Etel, because he's a beetle and his power is that he eats stuff and then fires a laser. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, some of these later aliens that we get late into Ultimate Alien, they will actually be redesigned for Omniverse. Some of them will look mostly the same, and then others will look a lot different. Oh yeah, and also Ben has been using Fast Track a couple times throughout these episodes. I'm not 100% sure why they don't just have Ben use Accelerate, because I'm pretty sure he has access to that alien. And Accelerate basically does the exact same thing as Fast Track.
I think it's the same thing that you kind of identified before. They're always looking to the decisions they make about what aliens to use are entirely based on marketing. So if they want to market a new alien, they need to use that new alien.
Yeah. I think sometimes that will in some instances, that kind of mentality of we need to market the new toy that we've made for this alien, I think it does end up somewhat getting in the way of like the actual story reasons for why Ben would use a specific alien, because some aliens are definitely far more, like say some of these old aliens he's been using for a while, some of them are far more useful in certain situations, but instead the writers will have Ben turn into a new alien or accidentally turn into a new alien, or obviously specifically for marketing purposes, but like in story it can kind of get a little, kind of end up being a little cross-wired.
Yeah. Although it does indirectly lead to more, diversity of characters and whatnot.
Yeah. And I suppose also Ben himself using, I suppose thinking outside the box with his like solutions, because when he mistransforms, he does then have to kind of like figure out a solution with the alien he's been given, basically.
Very true.
Yeah. Okay, that's the last episode done.
There we go.
So yep, so in 2 weeks we shall cover the final 10 episodes of Ultimate Alien. And then after that we'll be moving on to Omniverse. Yeah. Of which I have designed a thumbnail for the Omniverse stream.
I did see that, yeah.
I am contemplating whether to do like an individual thumbnail or individual. Well, I say Photoshop, but I didn't use Photoshop for that. But I used a photo editing software.
Yeah.
The same. Yeah, but I'm debating whether to use that same thumbnail for all the streams or use a different one for each season. Because I know some of the seasons of Omniverse have like specific themes going through them. Yeah, because I think it's season 5 of Omniverse is subtitled Galactic Monsters. Because that has like a whole Universal Monster movie vibe going through that season.
Yeah.
Yep. So obviously we have later on we have Geeky Geekers.
Yeah.
And then I don't think Soundgrave's been doing streams on Mondays recently. I think the last one she did was, I think, possibly a month ago by now. So it's been a while. Yeah, but and we also have Tuesdays. We have Wolf 10 Media streams. I don't know specifically what he's doing this Tuesday. Obviously, at the same day, we have Professor Geek doing the book study of Lord of the Rings. And then Daniel Harron on Wednesday. Do you know what movie he's doing this Wednesday?
I got confused. Was it The Burbs or was it? I think it was The Burbs. I want to say it was The Burbs.
Yeah, because I know he's been.
Burbs. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, because I know he's been alternating between Star Trek movies and then a different movie.
Yeah.
It's like 1 week he'll do a Star Trek movie, and then another week he'll do a different movie, and then he'll cycle back to a Star Trek movie, and then back to a different movie entirely. Yeah. So and then obviously Thursday we have Professor Geek and Big Al doing the Darth Bane trilogy. I think they're on the second book now. Yeah, and then also the same time on, well, not the same time, but on Thursday also, I will be on Wolf 10 Media stream, and we'll be talking about Ben 10. I think what we'll do is probably the same thing we did before when we talked about Transformers, and when he talks about other things. I think we'll just be going through the series, talking through the series itself, and our own individual experience with it. Because that's basically what we did for the Transformers when I was there. And then, wait, do you have a stream on Friday?
I do. I don't know what the topic's going to be, but it'll be the regular drunk stream.
Okay.
Although you can catch me before that on Latino Slant. I'll be doing karaoke. It's 70s night.
Okay. Yeah. And I
Big Al.
Yeah.
I forgot which movie though.
It's Sword of the Valiant.
Yeah. Wait, is that King Arthur based film?
I think it is. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So and also I think Professor Geek's doing a stream on Friday. He didn't do one the Friday just been, so I'm not 100% sure if he will be doing one this next coming Friday. And as you said, Big Al doing a rewatch on Saturday. I think that's basically the week. I think some of the other members of the community are doing like planning out their streams multiple weeks in advance.
Yeah.
So my guess is the next week. I'm assuming Wolf 10 Media probably has next week's streams already planned out. Well, obviously it makes sense what Professor Geek is doing on both of his channels, because we already know he's doing Lord of the Rings on his Catholic Bible Geek channel, and then the Darth Bane trilogy on his Professor Geek channel. So I don't think he necessarily plans them out in advance, but we know that that's what he's doing on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Yep. So yeah, let the Matrix light your darkest hour till all are one.